techniques are changing all the time. The last couple of years, we've seen a lot of companies migrate to cloud and everything. And there's just so many different parts of cybersecurity, especially just offensive security. There's cloud, Active Directory, ICSOT, mobile apps. There's a lot to learn and that you could specialize in.
Hi, I'm Kyser Clark, and welcome to The Hacker's Cache, the show that decrypts the secrets of offensive security one bite at a time. Every week, I invite you into the world of ethical hacking by interviewing leading offensive security practitioners. If you are a penetration tester, bug bounty hunter, red teamer, or blue teamer who wants to better understand the modern hacker mindset, whether you are new or experienced, this show is for you. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I have Justin Mahon, who has over 6 years experience in the field. He started at the help desk in the U.S. Army. Then he moved to system administrator with satellite comm experience. Outside the Army, he became a security consultant and is now a full-time offense security consultant. For education, he is almost complete with his bachelor's degree. And for certifications, he has a lot. So get ready for this long list of alphabet soup. He has the certified red team expert, that's a CRTE from Altered Security. He has several GX certifications. So he has the GX web app tester. He has the certified intrusion analyst, the GX Python coder. He has the GX certified incident handler. He has the GSEC. He has the GX information security fundamentals, the GX foundational cybersecurity technologies, and he has the certified enterprise security professional. That's the CESP. That is also from Altered Security. And he has the Blue Team Level 1, the EJPT, and a pair of Fortinet certifications. So, Justin, thank you so much for taking your time and doing this episode with me. Go ahead and unpack some of that experience and introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. So, just to dive right in, I'm Justin Mahon. I'm currently 24 years old, and I started cybersecurity, studying and everything in 2019 while I was in the Army. And after that, I was able to land a offensive security position. And from there, it's been great. I have a family, and I work remote, and couldn't ask for anything better.
Nice. So, what was your biggest challenge coming out of the Army as a system administrator getting into security consulting? What was the biggest challenge there?
Yeah, the biggest challenge I think was just, trying to make that pivot from system administration to, cyber because, even though I had that IT experience and, I knew my job really well, it was just difficult to just find someone to give me a chance, so to speak, and just be able to gain that useful experience in offensive security. So I'd say that was the biggest one for me.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I was a administrator in the Air Force, and I had, coming out of the Air Force trying to land my first pen testing role. There were several interviews where they would ask me, "Hey, how much experience do you have in pen testing?" I'm like, "Well, I don't have any paid experience, but I have 100 hack the box machines done.
Right.
I have OSCP, I have OSWP, and these other offense security certifications. I I've been doing Try Hack Me for a couple of years now, and I've completed over 200 Try Hack Me rooms. But even with all that, they'll be like, "Well, you never been paid as a pen tester. You haven't done a real world engagement," and that was very hard. And even when I was completing real world engagements, because I had a skill bridge where I was doing an internship and I was doing real world engagements for my uh, DoD skill bridge, they they still looked at it as like a risk because I had one employer for that tell me like, yeah, you got to have 2 years experience in pen testing. I'm like, man, it was hard. And I put in probably 100 so applications, and I finally got a job, some company to give me an offer, and then they later withdrew that offer, and then I found the job I am now after that offer got withdrawn. So it was really hard coming out of the system administration experience, even with 6 years, because it wasn't offensive security.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, it's nice to know it. Well, I don't know if it's nice to know, but it's interesting to see you had a pretty similar story there because a lot of people oh, like this guy was a system admin. Like, what does he know about offense security and cybersecurity?
Yeah, exactly. And, that just goes into, figuring out how things work, how they should be configured, just the proper ways of doing things. And then just using that knowledge to, use it to break things too, or find loopholes and everything. So, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and so another thing about your background that I noticed was so you was a security consultant, and then in your LinkedIn you had a gap for a layoff. And what advice could you give someone when it comes to layoffs? Like what was the challenge there with that layoff? And can you just walk me through the process of like receiving the news of the layoff and like what did you do to overcome that challenge and just give me the whole story of that layoff if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not gonna lie, it was, disappointing and stuff. It was, a punch in the gut and everything. But the biggest thing I learned was just, perseverance. I had a wife and at the time 2 kids and one on the way. And it was just one of those things where it's like, I love this field and I have to support my family. And the biggest thing is just don't give up, submit applications every day. And the biggest thing is just, continue to learn, while you have that time and that gap, because you may be able to apply for jobs, but as long as you keep learning and keep gaining that knowledge and harnessing your skill, that's really going to help you down the road.
Yeah, that's good advice. And what do you think a cybersecurity professional can prevent a layoff? And if so, how could they do it?
I don't really believe in that. It's gonna just come down to just how the company's doing and your management and everything like that. The biggest thing is just staying on top of what your duties are, and just how good you can be at your job. Just be the best you can be. I try to do that in everything I do, and it's worked well for me.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to understand it's like just because you get laid off doesn't mean you are bad at your job because the company can be poorly managed or the marketplace could, hit whatever company you're working for, it could have hit a road bump and the management says, well, we got to make some cuts. And typically, cybersecurity is considered a cost center. For those who don't know, that means it costs the company money. Like you're not making money for the company unless you're in a consulting role like me, who goes out and does pen tests for clients. But if you're in like a traditional cybersecurity role for a company, you're a cost center and you are an expense to the company. So when things get bad, cybersecurity is typically one of the first things to go, and that's why you see a lot of tech layoffs. Has very little to do with your skill. I mean, I think I saw something like some guy that worked at Google for like 19 years and he got laid off, and it's like he was like one of the higher ups too. So
Yeah.
it's like it can happen to anybody, So if you do get laid off, like you can't take it. I mean, you can take it personally, but, like, at the same time, like, you can't take it personally, but the way you should take it personally is like, "Well, this is gonna get open up some more doors for me, and I can use this as an opportunity to go further in my career," and a lot of people have taken layoffs and gotten to better situations, in the end. Would you agree that's what happened to you? Do you think you're in a better spot now after the layoff, now that it's over?
A 1,000%, yeah. The new company I'm with and the team I'm on, they're amazing and stuff. We all share our knowledge openly. We don't, put each other down or anything. It's a very open, cohesive team. So I'm really grateful to have found that opportunity, and yeah, I plan to stay for a while.
Nice, yeah, that's really good to hear. And I never been laid off from a tech role, but I have experienced layoffs in my life before I joined the military. I was an industrial sandblaster painter, fireproofer, and I got laid off every winter because you can't paint when pipes are frozen. I painted pipes and tanks and stuff in oil refineries, and you can't paint when it's frozen. I mean, when it's negative 10 degrees outside here in Northeast Ohio and there's snow everywhere and ice everywhere. So I was that was one of the reasons why I ended up joining the military, was because like getting laid off every winter, it was just awful, you know.
Yeah, and the reason I joined at the time, I was 18, but I didn't want to go to college. I actually didn't know what to do. I wasn't interested or knew anything about technology at the time. So the army kind of helped me, get into that and show me that. And then from there, I just took it and ran. Studying all the time whenever I could. It was crazy because for example, like I'd have to leave my house at 5:30 in the morning, and then I'd be home probably by 6 o'clock at night. I have a wife and a kid at the time, and the hardest thing was I would be waking up at 2:30, 3 in the morning. I would study for 2.5 hours, get ready, and then leave. And I'd do that every day, because I really wanted to break into the field and just learn and just do anything I could to, because I knew it's what I wanted to do.
That's that's intense. Waking up that early to do your studies, that's um commendable, and that's definitely not easy. And I tip my cap off to you, because I mean, I've done a lot of studying my day, but I have never woke up that early. Now I've stayed up that late studying, but I never woke up that early to you know what I mean? So yeah, man, that's cool. And yeah, well, it seems like it's paying off for you, man. Like perseverance is the key to success. You know, I'm actually reading this book called The Dip. I think it's kind of goes along with the theme of like not giving up, or basically what this book is, by Seth Godin, by the way. It's like it tells you like, when you should quit something and when you should stick out the tough times. I've only read it like for a half hour so far. I just started it today, but it's a very short book. I'm already like a third of the way through it. And it might be a book worth looking into for anybody that might be struggling, like, oh, should I keep pursuing this or should I switch it up? I'm excited to announce that memberships are now live for my YouTube channel. And if you decide to become a member, you'll get early access to videos, access to member-only polls, loyalty badges for the YouTube channel chat, and priority reply to the YouTube comments. Of course, if you can't or don't want to become a member, that is totally fine. I will always release the same free content you come to expect, and your support just by watching is more than enough to keep the channel going. But for those who do join, your contribution helps invest into new tools, technologies, and people to help the channel go further. The goal is to create even more content and raise the quality of every video for everyone. Thank you for considering memberships, and as always, thank you so much for your support. All right, Justin, let's go ahead and do the rapid fire questions. Are you ready for the rapid fire round?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, so for those who don't know, Justin will have 30 seconds to answer 5 questions. If he answers all 5 questions in 30 seconds, he will get a bonus 6 question unrelated to cybersecurity. And his time will start as soon as I stop asking the first question. Here we go. Justin, is it okay to get into cybersecurity just for the money?
I'm gonna say no. It has to be a passion.
Have you ever collaborated with law enforcement on a case?
I haven't. No,
Do you think cybersecurity will ever be fully automated?
no.
Most unique device that you've ever hacked?
Um, an on-prem Active Directory environment to a hybrid Azure environment.
Do you think cybersecurity jobs are stressful?
At times, yes.
We got like 31 and a half. Man, you just
Okay.
missed it. You just missed it. But thank you for providing your insights. And that's still a good time, by the way. Um we've had some worse times than that for sure. So don't feel bad. It's hard on purpose. So diving into your most interesting question, I actually forgot to tell you that before the recording, that you get a chance to explain your most interesting question. But your most interesting response, I would say, is it okay to get into cybersecurity just for the money? You said no, it has to be a passion. Can you dive deeper into that? Why do you think it has to be a passion, and why do you think it's not a good idea to get in just for the money?
Yeah, definitely. My biggest opinion on that is just in this field, it's constant learning. And you're gonna have to take constructive criticism sometimes, and it's for the better good to improve yourself and your skill set and everything. But doing it for the money, I can't really see how I would do something, like I said earlier, wake up 2 3 in the morning studying just for the money. It's just definitely not something that would be worth it. And in the end, money is money, versus doing something you love. And I'd like to look back at the end of my life and just know that I did something I loved.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I definitely do not recommend getting in just for the money. Now, the money can help you overcome those moments where it's getting tough, but if you're not enjoying it at all, then it's definitely something you shouldn't pursue. Because my argument is like, if you're going to get into something just for the money, like cybersecurity ain't it, because you have to study constantly. Like it's a lot of work, and there's other routes to similar salaries that, in my opinion, are easier, that will pay about the same, that are easier, because this is a hard field to break into, for one, and for two, it's a hard field to stay in because you have to constantly learn the newest things. You have to be up to date in the news, and I always tell people it's not a 9 to 5. If you're not using any of your free time to advance your career, then you are in trouble, because this field demands people to be up to date with the latest trends. The exploits are always changing, and if you're a elite hacker today, your exploits and your techniques and your tools, they're not going to work 5 years from now.
Yeah, exactly. And techniques are changing all the time. Last couple of years, we've seen a lot of companies migrate to cloud and everything. And there's just so many different parts of cybersecurity, especially just offensive security. There's cloud, Active Directory, ICSOT, mobile apps. There's a lot to learn and that you could specialize in.
Yeah, speaking of specialization, do you think do you think specializing in a certain area is the way to go for to advance in your career, or do you think being a generalist is okay? What's your take on generalizing versus specializing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Personally, I would say I'm currently specialized in Active Directory. I'm really big on it. I know it pretty well. But I'm also, fell in love with cloud and everything. And, next year I plan to really get into ICSOT. So the biggest takeaway is just, finding like one or two areas to, really specialize and really know, the detailed knowledge and everything. It's hard. You can be a generalist, but I feel like if you're a generalist, unless you're dedicating hours of study, almost every day, I don't really see how you could really master a specific area. It's just there's so much knowledge to know and be aware of, and like you said, it's constantly changing, constantly updating. So it's something that's hard to stay on top of.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And right now, I feel like I'm specializing in network pen testing and web app testing at the same time, and I'm dabbling in like Wi-Fi and IoT. So I'm kind of like a generalist right now, but I feel like maybe eventually I might specialize in one. I'm kind of just throwing my hand into a little bit of everything, and then just seeing what I like, what I don't like, because right now I'm going through IoT stuff, and um, I guess I'm discovering that it's a little less exciting than I thought it was gonna be, but I'm still learning, and once I get to a point like, okay, maybe I know enough to, point someone in the right direction for IoT hacking, but, it might not be for me, like, something I wanna specialize in, so I think, starting early in your career, and by the way, like, as I've been in the field for almost 7 years now, but my first 6 years was cyber defense operations and system administration, and I'm still a pretty new pen tester. I don't even have a year of paid pen test experience yet. So, I think early in your career, like, generalizing is something that I've been doing, but I think long term, when you start adding the years, like you definitely want to start specializing in something because, like you said, it's the only way you can become an expert in something. If you're generalizing, then you can't be a true expert. Like that, the saying like "jack of all trades, a master of none." I'm a firm believer in that
Right.
saying. So if you want to be a master of something, then you definitely need to specialize in something. But it's okay to generalize in a bunch of stuff because you got to figure out what you like and what you don't like first before you commit to something. I mean, I'm specialized in pen testing, but there's so many different types of pen testing. Like you talked about, you said I ICS and OT, something I haven't even touched yet, and that might be something I want to touch in the future just to see what it's all about. I mean, reading about it hasn't been something that's interesting to me, but I won't know until I actually throw my hand in there.
Yeah, definitely. And at one point, like I was interested in web applications, and after doing a lot of boxes and getting some knowledge there, I just realized it wasn't really my passion. It was kind of someone else's passion. It was actually my mentor, and I'm really grateful for him giving me that guidance and that knowledge. But I realized that, and it kind of moved to Active Directory more in social engineering at the time, and I was actually really good at it. And like my first social engineering assessment, like the primary assessor was kind of shocked, like how well I did, on a phone call and everything. And it's just one of those things where it's like if you're a natural at it, it may be something you want to look into deeper because you may really like it.
Yeah, exactly. So with AD, that being your area of focus right now, where are the best places to learn AD if someone wants to specialize in AD? What's your favorite resources?
Yeah, personally, as far as like certifications and labs, I'm really big on altered security. I think they have a great learning and training program, and they really push you to your limits. On top of the lab time, there's also flag verifications. So as you go through the lab, you collect flags and learning objectives, and you'll submit them as you go through the course and everything. And that's definitely helpful. Really leveled up my game with that vendor. I plan to get a lot more certifications from them, especially with Azure. As far as other resources, there's a book for Active Directory pen testing, I believe, by Dennis Isakov, and he really breaks down like all the different attacks and techniques. And on top of that, he even shows like the mitigations for them and the patches and everything. Because that's the thing with pen testing. It's great to know how to break stuff and really have that knowledge, but you also have to know how to mitigate it. Because if you're talking to clients writing these reports, they at least need some type of basic guidance to lead them in the right direction.
Right, yeah, and that's been one of the challenges for me because it's nice to know how to exploit something, but and then sometimes you'll give kind of like a generic advice in your report, and they are like, "Hey, what does this mean?" And you're like, "Oh man, I got to do some research to like answer this question." And I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to like disable cipher suites, and I'm like, "Well, I'm like," because in the report I'm like, "Oh yeah, just disable those cipher suites." And they're like, "Well, how do you disable those particular cipher suites?" I'm like, "That's a good question. Let me do some research and get back with you on that one." So I had to do like an hour or two worth of research just to figure out how to disable these cipher suites in their environment, and I didn't know how to do that before. I think the skill just comes over time, especially because I would say a lot of the reports I could do are kind of generic advice because I don't know. Even I mean, I pen tested their environment, but I don't know the ins and outs of everything in their environment. So I'd have to try to stick with some generic advice because I don't know everything about the environment, even though I was pen testing it for a week or two. Um, but obviously, if I know more about the environment, then I'll write more in the recommendations. But yeah, that's definitely an important skill to have for sure.
Yeah, and just to touch on that a little bit, it's something you want to be wary of because you don't want to tell a client, "Oh, disable this registry key," to fix this problem, and then they go and disable it, and a whole bunch of stuff breaks in their environment, and guess who they're going to point the finger at? You, because you told them to do it. So the biggest thing is just, like know the mitigations and the recommendations, but also know, like what could happen if, someone implemented this or did this, so that's just something to be wary of, and, just to do your research on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because if you recommend something and they implement it and then something else breaks, yep, they're pointing the finger at you, and that's going to be not a good day for you.
Right.
So with cloud pen testing, what are your go-to resources for that?
Yeah, altered security, I'm gonna keep saying it, altered security is amazing. Just with the course content and the hands-on and everything. They have a lot of Azure content right now. The other ones I'd recommend, there are some books out there. To be honest, I can't remember who the author is. It's just like basic cloud pen testing handbook. The other one is Hacktricks. They've came out with some certifications recently, and they have like apprentice level certifications and expert. And you don't really need any prior knowledge to pursue those. And I just think that's great, just to have a course that can, bring you from zero to hero. And as long as, you learn and, do the hands-on and everything. So I'd say those are the biggest ones. And then just something to get some basic knowledge about is AWS Flaws. It's basically like just like a little cloud lab playground. And you just learn some, basic cloud attacks and, how to enumerate things like that. So those are kind of the biggest ones I'd recommend.
Nice. And dude, I didn't even know Hytrix came out with certifications, so that's interesting. No, I have to look into that more. Those are brand new, right?
Yeah, they have GCP and AWS, and I think they're about to release their Azure one. I think it's releasing at the end of this month.
Huh. Well, that's nice to know because I I personally thought, I mean, I'm on the record saying this somewhere. I can't remember where I said it or who I said it to, but I said like, "Oh, it'd be nice if we had some more cloud pen testing certifications because there wasn't a whole lot, if any at all." So that's really interesting to know. That might be something that I want to pursue because uh, there's a lot of cloud. I mean, almost every company nowadays is using the cloud in some shape or form or fashion, So knowing the cloud is, in my opinion, essential to your career nowadays. It's no longer optional. So when it comes to cloud pen testing, like what makes it different between like cloud pen testing and like on-prem pen testing? Like what's the biggest difference in your opinion?
Um, I'm not, super knowledgeable with cloud yet. It's something I'm really diving in this year, and plan to be really good at it by the end. But just the amount of services and just different things you can do, especially with Azure. I don't remember the amount, but I want to say there's like 60 different services or something. So just trying to get used to those and understanding what they are, what they do, the ins and outs and everything. It's going to take some time. And yeah, it's just definitely a lot. I'd say it's a little bit more in depth in a way, just because, um, everything kind of builds off of each other, so to speak, in the cloud. And there's a lot of like prerequisites to, accessing stuff, or like authenticating, and just other things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, no worries about not knowing much about cloud pen testing because I'm not there either, man. And that's why I got to do some. That's why it's important to train all the time, and that's another reason why I like to be a generalist because if I just focus on in on prem stuff, then I'm not gonna learn that cloud stuff. And like I said, I would say almost every client, I would say very rarely does a client not have anything in the cloud, you know.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know that cloud pen testing stuff, and that's something that I need to start working on as well. And it's just one more thing that I look at it like a feather in your cap, like, oh, here's cloud pen testing, here's Wi-Fi testing, it's like because being a consultant, the clients, they have a wide variety of needs and for the type of stuff that they need tested. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like to be a journalist because I can help a wider variety of clients. For example, because you don't really know what they're going to ask you to pen test.
Right. Yeah, and just being a generalist, even just being an expert too, you're going to be googling things all the time. There's stuff I forget, even though it's in my notes, or I know already. It's just something you have to constantly familiarize yourself with.
Yeah. So as a offense security consultant, what's your favorite part about being a consultant? And what's your least favorite part about being a consultant?
Um, that's a good question. I'd say the best part, honestly, is just the experience, like just the different environments you encounter, and just you're going to encounter some environments that are really well kept, and then some that are just haven't been maintained in years. Sometimes password resets occurred 20 years ago. It just varies client to client. So just giving them that guidance and just getting that experience, I'd say, are the best things. And it's just fun. My least favorite part, it's hard to answer because I haven't really encountered anything too negative. I'd say the biggest negative I've just dealt with is, I guess, dealing with scoping and sales, part of it, just because sometimes in sales, if someone doesn't really know or understand what they're doing, it will be underscoped, or you'll find out last minute that the client wanted a second report or something, or some other requirement. So I'd say that's probably my least favorite part that I've encountered.
Yeah, I've encountered that as well, where it was the salesperson promised the client all these things, and you're like, well, we can't feasibly test all this in a week, and then you'd have to tell the client that, and they're like, well, you guys sold it to us this way. And you're like, well, it's like not feasible to like pen test this much in a week,
Right.
and the sales guy like isn't even in the company anymore, so stuff like that I've experienced. And if I was asked that question, I would say my least favorite would be um, just the clients arguing my findings. No one really prepared me for that. I don't know if there is a way to prepare for that, where you find a vulnerability, you write it up, and you take the screenshots, you explain it the best you can in a report and in person. And by in person, I mean like through a video call. Um, and they're like, "Well, I don't think it's a finding." You're like, and it's like, "How do you not think it's a finding?" And they don't understand like the severity of it, and they argue with you, and you're like, that's hard. That's to me, that's the hardest part because, um, I understand like a lot of clients they want that squeaky clean pen test report, and it'd be like a low finding too. It's like not even a big deal, They're like, "Well, we want this squeaky clean report," and yeah, that's hard for me to deal with because like for me as a pen tester, like I'm not putting this on the pen on your report to just say like, "Oh, look at me, I'm an elite hacker. I'm better than you." Like that's not why I'm putting it there. I'm putting it there to help you. And I think people, when they see some of their reports, they're like, "Oh man, like they're just trying to get me on this nonsense." It does, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I heard someone, had an issue with a client, and basically their tech team was blaming us, basically saying, that we configured something in their environment, to make it vulnerable or something. And we were like, well, even if we wanted to do that, we don't have the time to do that. And that's, very unethical. So sorry, but they have to be lying to you, or like forgot something, or something, just because it's not something that as ethical hackers that we'll go out of our way and do. It's a fine line between doing the right thing and helping people, and then just you know doing the opposite.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing with ethical hackers too, is like was like I'm not like, I don't enjoy putting things on a report, like, cause I have to write about it. You know what I mean? Like, it would
Right.
be easier if I didn't put this on the report, but I'm putting this on the report because I believe it is a risk that you should be aware of. Now, sometimes it's not always a huge risk, but just because it's not a huge risk doesn't mean there's no risk there, and that's why you rate things as a low finding. And, they're like, "Well, it's a low finding. Why is this a big deal?" It's like, "Well, I mean, it's low, but it's still there's still a chance that it could turn into something bigger down the road, and that's why it's a low." You know? Um, But I think, like I said, there's no way to really prepare for that. You just got to get on the job and start doing it. And when you get in, hopefully you have some like senior pen testers that will help you out. And that's actually in the situation I'm in now. I have a um, the client that's kind of arguing a finding that I've put on a report, and the lead pen tester, he's like, "Hey, I'll jump on a call and help back you up with that finding." And that's if you should have that kind of guidance if you're like new to the field. And if you're a senior in the field listening, then you should be helping your juniors with that. And that's my goal. Like when I get to the senior pen tester status, like my goal would be to, yeah, let me jump in a call with you and I'll help, back up your report with the junior pen tester or the mid level pen tester, when I hit that level.
Yeah, it's all about, when you're on a team, just leaning on each other. There's a lot of things I've taught, seniors and principals, and there's a lot of things they've taught me. It's just that part of the field where, everybody knows something that you don't, and just being open about it and just, sharing that knowledge, it's important in the field, and it really, creates good friendships and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point you mentioned there because just because you're new um, doesn't mean you can't add value because there's been times where, like I said earlier in the episode, like I don't even have a year of paid experience yet. I'll approach a year here in like 2 months, but I still get questions from people who have 5, 10 years experience. They'll ask me a question, they ask me for my opinion, and I'm flattered. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can add value here. And just because you're newer doesn't mean you can't add value. Because like you said, uh, everybody can add value in some way, shape, or form, and not everybody knows everything about everything. Everything changes so fast, so it's not. It's very common for people who've been in the field a lot to not know something a new person knows.
Yeah, definitely. And, like going back to how you talked about seniors and everything, just finding the right ones too, because, I won't go into details, but, there may be people that just don't want the best for you, or, just don't care. And, the biggest thing is just, blocking those people, or, just ignoring and just finding someone who's actually willing to help you and actually, give you that guidance. I think, everyone should have some type of mentor, in the field. I think, even as like a principal or a senior or something, because there will be people out there who just, I prey on your downfall. They just won't help you.
Interesting and good advice, and yeah, watch out for that. Well, Justin, we are running out of time, so I'm going to ask you the final question, and that is, do you have any additional cybersecurity hot takes or hidden wisdom you'd like to share? So, anything you want to tell the audience that we haven't already covered yet?
Um, as far as, haven't covered yet, no, but, I'll say it again. Keep going. Don't give up. You're going to learn so much and continue learning, and, find those right people who, are not against you, or, want to help you. There's people out there, a lot more of those people who will help you than those who won't. So, just keep going, and just know every day is a new day.
Great advice. So, Justin, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this episode with me. Where can the audience get a hold of you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. They could just find me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way, Justin Mahone. I'm probably gonna put my GitHub profile on there, because I just, made my account on there. Um, but yeah, that's the main area, I'd say.
Yeah, and audience members, I'll put Justin's LinkedIn link in the show notes of this episode. And audience, LinkedIn is also a great place to get a hold of me and my website, kyserclark.com. Audience, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. If you haven't reviewed the show, give it a 5-star rating if you think the show deserves it. And if you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And until then, I will see you in the next episode. This is Kyser signing off.